So Nicole Wallace, I wish I didn't feel so gutted. I wish I could stop thinking about those guys being scared in El Salvador. This is the bleeding heart lib. These guys are driving the media narrative. What about the worry and the fear for Americans who were scared here, like scared for their lives, like Lake and Wright? Like there's so many people who are in this position. Why do they always prioritize the illegal criminals first?
Because the people that she's talking about are not criminals. 75% of the 238 men that were sent to CCOT have no criminal conviction. New data is out on who's been arrested in Los Angeles. 70% of the people who've been taken in, no criminal conviction. Right now, ICE has, according to their own numbers, they've detained 59,000, 47% of them, no criminal convictions. That's what people wanted. Worst first. That's not what they're getting, which is why Donald Trump's approval on immigration has plummeted. That's what Nicole Wallace is talking about. That's what Jasmine Crockett is talking about. And I think if you talk to the average person on the street, especially in one of these cities, but if you say, do you consider someone who's here illegally, who has committed no crime on U.S. soil to be a criminal? They would say no. Because the majority of Americans think that if you've been here and you haven't committed a crime, go about your business. We make $25 billion. $25 billion in Social Security taxes that they're paying in. These are people being picked up of job sites out of immigration court. Americans don't like that.
Take a look. Trump and immigrant arrests. He's gone too far. That's the winner here. 49%. Not too far, only 40%. So you got a 9-point lead here. And again, among those independents or other category, you see 51% of them say Trump's gone too far. And what's so important to note is that this poll was taken after the Los Angeles protests started. So this takes into account everything that's gone on in Los Angeles. At this particular point, if the protesters' idea was to focus the attention on Donald Trump and bring attention to his immigration policies and bring attention to the arrests that have been occurring of immigrants, it seems to me that those protests have been successful because you see here, 49% say Trump's gone too far when it comes to the immigrant arrests compared to just 40% who say he's not gone too far. And you don't have to be a mathematical genius to know 49% is larger than 40%.
By quite a bit.
Jasmine Crockett just pointed out how hypocritical Donald Trump's immigration policy is by reminding us all how Melania Trump got her visa.
It's interesting that we're being accused of wanting all kinds of criminals to be on the streets, or that we don't believe that people should show up to their meetings and appointments. Last time I checked, there's a lot of people that are actually being grabbed as they are going in for their appointments. In fact, we know that one of the candidates that was recently running in this mayoral, he ended up being arrested because he decided that he was actually going to escort people that are actually showing up to their meetings. Or we know that the Pope, yes, the Pope himself decided that the church may need to have people that are going to escort people as they're going into their meetings. Because the reality is that what they are claiming what they want to do versus what they're actually doing, the actions don't match up. And while we are supposed to be talking about visas, somehow we continue to cherry pick and talk about one criminal act and another criminal act. And it is so very interesting to me that, yes, we will say people are xenophobic, because when you start to decide that just because somebody came from another country, they are automatically some kind of criminal, that does sound kind of xenophobic to me, because you are using a paintbrush to paint an entire group of people where the vast majority of them are coming here because they are actually seeking a better life. But let me get to what this hearing is supposed to be about. The idea that Trump and my Republican colleagues want to restore integrity and security in the visa process is actually a joke. Let me be clear. Integrity is not snatching lawful visa holders off the streets and throwing them into unmarked vans. Integrity is not revoking visas based on social media posts that hurt somebody's little feelings because kids decide that they want to go after Trump or this administration. We have a thing called free speech in this country. And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the first lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. it doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here. Nevertheless, what Republicans are doing with this reconciliation process, the travel bans and revoking visas jeopardizes our national security. It threatens our communities, our higher education, and our economy. Visas like the largely vetted J visas for higher education and M visas for trade, training, attract the next innovators, medical providers, researchers, and educators that we need to build on American success. I'm not gonna mess up your name, so I'm not doing that. But I'm with you, okay? In your experience, do individuals on J or M visas typically improve or impair our economy?
They generally improve the economy, and I can give a brief example. My wife is a very successful woman. She makes a ton of money, which I'm grateful for. And the reason why we're able to do that while having 3 children is because of the au pair visa, somebody who is here on a J. Okay. Who is here and able to supply this for us. But I also want to defend Melania real quick. Not everybody could marry Donald Trump, and I think that's quite an achievement. So I think she deserves credit for that. Nobody up here could have done it.
You sure right, I couldn't do it. But anyway, in fact, J visa holders contribute $43.8 billion to the U.S. economy and support more than 300,000 jobs. And make no mistake, immigrants improve the health of U.S. citizens too. Despite the fact we already have a doctor shortage, Trump's reckless travel ban and visa overhaul are exacerbating this crisis by impairing hundreds of hospitals with foreign-trained doctors set to do their residencies here in the United States, meaning fewer people will get the help they need and more people will die. Now, let me remind you that Republicans are trying to gut Medicaid. Roughly 4.5 million people receive caregiver services through Medicaid, and most of these folks are in red states. And wouldn't you know that in 2023, Kaiser Family Foundation estimated that almost 30% of long-term care providers or home caretakers were immigrants. It's like Republicans want Americans to suffer. Now, Republicans say visas make us less secure, but let's talk about how visas given to victims of crimes like rape, murder, human trafficking, torture, abduction, kidnapping, to help law enforcement with their investigation or prosecutions of these crimes. These folks are risking their own security for broader safety of Americans and our community.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's not just Donald Trump, but it's the entire Republican establishment that is incredibly hypocritical with pretty much everything that they preach, whether it's immigration policies or law and order. You know, we got to get the criminals off the street. That's why we're going to put Donald Trump, a man who had 91 felony convictions, or charges rather, under his belt. 34 of the 91 which he was convicted on. They were, so what? Let's go ahead and put him in office. The same man who had to pay $25 million for the Trump University scam, the same man who ripped off countless workers who worked for him on the Atlantic City jobs, all the scams that he runs on his own supporters where he collects their money and then doesn't put it where he says that he's going to put it. And then, of course, we get to the immigration policies where now Stephen Miller, he's trying to get 3,000 migrants out of here a day. We have data that shows that there was only about 10,000 violent criminals, undocumented immigrants here, and 3,000 a day. Quickly, you're not getting those people. That's why he wants them to go up into 7-Elevens, Home Depots. Just get them out of here. If they not white, get them out of here. You saw how they was whining and complaining about Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani, go ahead and do your thing, brother. You saw how they was whining and complaining about him. Oh, look, the only reason he won is because New York City isn't filled with white people. But I got a news flash for you, Stephen. New York City ain't never been full of nothing but white people. In fact, there was a time when Italians and Irish were not considered white. And then that, of course, is the port of basically the biggest immigration fluxes that we've ever had in this country ever since this country was founded. So at the end of the day, these people are just a bunch of dumb white supremacists who don't know what the hell they're doing and have absolutely no plan.